Happy Friday, everyone. Hopefully, I give some time for people to come in. Happy Friday. It's Larita, your resident YouTube lawyer. And today we're going to actually do a reaction video to the recent U.S. Supreme Court that upheld the ban or sale of TikTok that goes into effect January 19th, which is Sunday. And then we have a new administration coming in on the 20th for inauguration. So I'm going to talk to you about the actual law that is the subject of how it got to the Supreme Court. And then I'm going to kind of ask you what do you think about it? I know my opinion about it. I know what some people have expressed their opinions about it. But we're going to get into the legal part of it. And hopefully I can distill it into something more digestible than what it really is. And even how it got to the Supreme Court, because not a lot of cases get to the Supreme Court every year. I'm freezing a little bit. Not a lot of cases get to the Supreme Court every year. So why did this one get to the Supreme Court? And the Supreme Court has jurisdiction over many cases, original jurisdiction over certain cases that involve state to state, things like foreign ministers, things of that nature. But the Supreme Court also has appellate jurisdiction, meaning they hear cases that the lower courts have already heard, in certain cases dealing with, as in this case, federal laws that also impact, have a national impact, right? And in this case, with I think over 170 million TikTok users in the United States, this qualified as something that the Supreme Court wanted to hear. And the law that went into effect during the Biden administration was up for debate. It was actually passed by Congress, and now the Supreme Court was deciding whether that law that was passed by Congress was constitutional. So I'm going to share my screen with you. We're going to dive into little things, but we're going to talk about, just so if you want to hear, we're going to talk about the actual Supreme Court decision, what they did, what's at stake here. There's some alternatives that are popping up, including Red Note. I don't know if you guys have heard of that as an alternative to TikTok. What's really at issue here? What did Biden say? What did Trump say? What did Trump say originally about this? Change his mind, and what is he going to possibly say in regards to when he takes office on Monday? So if you're watching right now on the live, hop in the comment section and say hi. Let me know where you're watching from, and let me know, do you use TikTok? Do you use TikTok personally? Personally, I do not use TikTok, but I know a lot of people do. So with over 170 or 190 million users in the United States, a lot of people use it. So I'm going to share the screen with you to show you the Supreme Court decision. I'm going to kind of break it down a little bit for you, but then go into kind of what is that issue. So if you're watching from your phone, I like to tell people to turn your phone sideways so that you can see the verbiage a little bit more clearly. It's a little hard to see when it's up and down. So this is the case. The Supreme Court decision is TikTok et al. Petitioners versus Merrick Garland, who's the Attorney General for the United States. And there's also Brian Firebaugh and other petitioners versus Merrick Garland. The petitioners are the ones that are petitioning the court to say that, hey, this law is illegal. Please strike it down. Find that it's unconstitutional. And Merrick Garland represents the United States as the Attorney General. So that's who the petitioners are, TikTok, and also TikTok users who joined in this lawsuit. So I'm just going to read a little bit of it and then kind of break down what's happening. But it says, as of January 19th, the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act will make it unlawful for companies in the United States to provide services to distribute, maintain, or update the social media platform TikTok, unless U.S. operation of the platform is severed from Chinese control. Petitioners are two TikTok operating entities and a group of U.S. TikTok users. We consider whether the act, as applied to petitioners, violates the First Amendment. In doing so, we are conscious that the cases before us involve new technologies with transformative capabilities. This challenging new context counsels caution on our part. As Justice Frankfurter advised 80 years ago in considering the application of established legal rules to the totally new problems raised by, at that time, the airplane and the radio, we should take care not to embarrass the future. That caution is heightened in these cases, given the expedited time allowed for our consideration. Our analysis must be understood to be narrowly focused in light of these circumstances. So then it kind of goes into details about what TikTok is. And it's over 170 million users. But the issue here is that TikTok is a Chinese-owned entity that has US-based applications here, right? But the primary holder of TikTok is a a Chinese platform. I believe it's called Byte. Let me just make sure I get the name right. It's called ByteDance Limited, a privately held company that has operations in China, and ByteDance Limited owns TikTok's proprietary algorithm, which is developed and maintained in China. And that is the source of the issue here. That is the reason why Congress passed that law, because it was cautious about the Chinese basically data mining from US, putting in things that will track information of this US users and perhaps use it to their ability as a Chinese government, right? Chinese government, if you may or may not know, severely limits what their citizens consume, right? They don't have the US Constitution that we do here, and they limit what their citizens hear, see, things of that nature. And also, China can also become an ally or can become an opposition, right? And by allowing the Chinese-based company to tap into, let's say, your phone as you've downloaded this app, and you have the permissions when you download something, that allows that TikTok to basically extract whatever information they want from United States citizens, right? And that was the ultimate reason why they came up with the law. That's the real reason for the law, right? But it's called the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act, right? But in application, is it really infringing on the United States citizens' First Amendment rights? And that is the reason why it came up to the Supreme Court, because it implicates the First Amendment. So for those of you who don't know what the First Amendment is, I'm going to share my screen with you just to give you a little bit of background. And it's very quick. The First Amendment is Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. So this is what it says. Congress shall make no law. The law here in question is, as I mentioned, it's a long name. We're going to call it Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Law, right? And that's the law that was passed by Congress to say that we were trying to protect people. What I think is happening is people who use TikTok and enjoy it as a way to express themselves, they're saying, wait a minute, this is going to basically infringe on our ability to express ourselves. And yes, I get that you're trying to protect us, but in some ways, I think they're almost like children, where they're like, I don't care what it does. I just want to play this game, right? They don't care that it's perhaps exposing the United States to foreign adversaries and having data that they can use against the United States in the future. They just want to do their dance on TikTok, right? So I think that's some of the problem that comes with it. A lot of the TikTok users are younger users, and they don't really care about the broader implications of the act, of using TikTok. What can be done, though, is United States says, okay, we're not banning TikTok. We're just saying that if it's going to be owned by something, it needs to be owned by a United States-owned company or entity. And then they will feel more safe in knowing that the Chinese government is not basically playing the man behind the curtain and orchestrating what they believe is the control of what us Americans consume and what they actually extract from us, right? This brought me to a point I made recently on and let me just stop real quick. Let me know in the comment section, do you think this is fair or foul, this TikTok ban / forced sale? Let me know in the comment section. If you're watching the replay game, let me know in the comment section, what do you think about it? And also, do you use TikTok? This may or may not impact you, but it may impact something that you may use in the future, right? So I did a video recently about Texas. Texas had a lawsuit where they were suing Allstate for illegally collecting data from drivers and using that to justify increasing their rates, right? It says the insurance company illegally, this is what Texas alleging the insurance company illegally collected driver data through secretly embedded software in mobile apps and then uses the data to justify raising Texans' insurance rate, right? And this is Texas saying this, right? About Allstate, which is a wholly owned United States company, right? And they were concerned about their consumer data being used in a way that the consumer was not aware of, right? And I think that just like anything, a lot of laws that are passed by, with the help of lobbyists, it depends on where the money goes, right? So in this case, they're concerned about China extracting data. But we have in situations here in the United States where companies are extracting data by, like we said in the Allstate case, using the mobile applications and things of that nature to basically spy on consumers, right? So why is it okay when U.S. owned companies do it, but not Chinese? Now, yes, there is a heightened ability for national security to protect our citizens from other foreign countries who may want to do harm to our U.S. citizens, but we actually have U.S.-owned companies that are not using the consumers' interest in mind, and we can list a list, including healthcare companies, healthcare insurance companies. We saw that with the CEO and his death, and also with this Allstate case. And it was also General Motors is accused of actually pirating data. So this is not a international thing, but because it is a Chinese-based company, it has broader implications than, let's say, United States-owned one, right? But I'm curious about, what do you think about, obviously the First Amendment thing does not apply to, let's say, the Allstate thing. But in this case, people are up in arms because they said they want to be able to express themselves, and TikTok is a way to do that. It brings me to my next thing. Like, if they say, okay, we have to ban TikTok, or if they're not going to sell it to a United States company, well, there's another Chinese-owned company called Red Note that some people are flocking towards. And it says, this article says, here's why Red Note will probably also be banned like TikTok. Chinese social media app Red Note has become a leading alternative for TikTok users concerned about the latter app's ban set to take effect on January 19th. Though, according to multiple outlets, Red Note could potentially face its own ban in the United States not long after. It's basically the same thing, right? The language in the law against TikTok, known as the Protect Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act, prohibits all apps developed by foreign adversaries like China from being hosted in American app stores or by internet hosting services. Spelling trouble for Red Note, which is headquartered in China and owned by Shanghai-based Zhenjiang Information Technology. An unnamed U.S. official told CBS News that Red Note appears to be the kind of app that the statute would apply to and could face the same restrictions as TikTok if not divested. Now, we have a lot of things that we get from China, clothes included, right? And so to say Apple phones, I believe Apple phones are manufactured in China. And although Apple is a United States-based company, it brings the implication of, like, who does this impact and when can it stop? Because we do have a lot of things that are based outside of the United States. And I know Trump has said in his upcoming administration, he's going to put tariffs on things that are imported into the United States to make it a premium and to basically put American manufacturers at the top instead of basically having all these foreign manufacturers supply all our stuff here, right? And so I think this is going to implicate a lot of things, not just manufacturing, not just Apple iPhone, not just TikTok, not just Red Note. It talks about data privacy and, what can be done with data and how it can impact national security. But I want to know, do you think the Trump administration will change course on the law? I know originally when Trump was in office, I'm going to share my screen again, in 2017, he was like, no, we're banning TikTok, right? And he's kind of reversed course on this and saying that, or giving the impression that he may support it, right? He says that, it says, with only a few days until a potential TikTok ban scheduled for Sunday, which would impact over 170 million American apps users on the app, Donald Trump, set to become the United States president on Monday, wants to keep the social media giant up and running. TikTok is a fantastic platform, Trump's incoming national security advisor, Mike Waltz, said on Fox News Report. We're going to find a way to preserve it, but to protect people's data. Trump could come out as a hero in all this, said Jennifer Greigel, an associate professor of communications at Syracuse University who studies social media. However, the president-elect's view of the social media app has changed since he was last in office. So when he was in office in 2017, he tried to do an executive order. Where is it? Let's see. During his first term as president, he tried to ban the app. In an executive order issued in August 2020, Trump claimed the app was capturing mass amounts of information about Americans and leaving it vulnerable to the Chinese government. These risks are real, the order said. This data collection threatens to allow the Chinese Communist Party access to Americans' personal and proprietary information, potentially allowing China to track the locations of federal employees and contractors, build dossiers of personal information for blackmail, and conduct corporate espionage. The order was later blocked by a federal judge and dropped by the Biden administration. Years later, in March 2024, Trump then flipped his position when he came out against the bill to ban the app or force a sale. Frankly, there are a lot of people on TikTok that love it, Trump said in an interview with CNBC at the time. There are a lot of kids, young kids on TikTok who will go crazy without it. There are a lot of users, a lot of good, and there's a lot of bad with TikTok. So what the petitioners for the lawsuit proposed to the Supreme Court, hey, can we make some adjustments to it so that it's still okay? And despite that, the United States Supreme Court said no. They're going to say that either ban it or have it owned by the United States company is what they upheld the law and said it was not in violation of the First Amendment Constitution. So what do you think about it? What do you think is going to happen on Monday or thereafter? Because Trump said, he said, you'll be hearing about what I think about TikTok very soon. What do you think? Let me know in the comment section. What do you think about all of this? Because this, you may think it's just social media thing. Oh, it's not a big deal. Social media is a very powerful tool, and it was used, if used correctly, can be positive, right? But if also used incorrectly, it can impact negatively a lot of people, right? And I think social media platforms such as YouTube, like you're watching right now, you can get information that you need. Whereas before, you had to go look it up somewhere else in a dictionary, an encyclopedia. You can get information about how to do things, right? It can be a powerful tool. Instagram, which is part of the Facebook Meta company, is also kind of, a way to share not only photos and videos, but to share information as well. So there's no doubt that social media is an important and powerful platform, which is why this Chinese company is interested in investing in something like this. Not only do they push apps or ads out to people who are watching and consuming it, but they find a way to influence the people that are watching it every day, right? You get subtle things, and it's kind of like when you say you don't want your children to watch certain things because it can influence them. The same thing happens to adults, right? You see another certain information, it can be possibly influenced by what you see and what you consume on social media. I know on a weekly basis, people consume a lot of social media, whether it be on this YouTube platform, Facebook, Instagram. We have Threads is also another branch out of Instagram. They used to have like MySpace, it's no longer in functional, and then TikTok, right? So there's different ways that people share information, but like I said, it can also influence things. So I want to know what you think about it. But as the Supreme Court said, it is not in violation of the First Amendment rights. The law does allow people to express themselves. But to balance national security, it is okay for Congress to pass a law that balances national security, but also protects the United States citizens by making sure that it's not their data is not used in a way that can harm the United States and its citizens. So let me know what you think. I wanted to hop on here today because this just came out today, which is January 17th. I wanted to know what you think about it, and if you think that in the coming administration there'll be some changes to this, or even the red note that I shared before. But like I said, I think time will develop. But I do like the Supreme Court's introduction when they said that must be careful about how not to. What did it say? I'll go back. In doing so, we are conscious that the cases before us involve new technology with transformative capabilities. And as Justice Frankfurter advised 80 years ago in considering the application of legal rules to the totally new problems raised by the airplane and radio, we should take care not to embarrass the future. So at that time, the airplane and the radio seemed like, oh, this is a new thing. And people were like, hey, this can be a bad thing. You can tap into people's radios frequencies, airplanes, people can die. But you see how we utilize those. We utilize the radio. We utilize even more than the radio and the airplane since then. And to come up with laws that perhaps infringe on the ability to evolve as technology allows us to, and to use that, I think that is a hard way to do that, to balance with national security. And that's what the Supreme Court was tasked to do in this case. And let me know if you think you got it right. It was 9-0. All the Supreme Court justices voted that this law was not unconstitutional. There were two concurring opinions, one from Sotomayor. She agreed and disagreed for one of the analysis, which overall she agreed. And then I think Justice, Sotomayor was one of the concurring opinions, meaning I agree, but I wanted to just explain why I agree. And then who was the second one? Sotomayor was the first one, and let's see. Justice Gorsuch was the second one, but there was a 9-0 opinion here, and it's rare that we get all the Supreme Court justices to agree on anything because they have differing ideologies. But in this case, they all agreed that the First Amendment was not violated in the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversaries Act that was passed by Congress. So, thank you guys for watching. We'll keep developing. We'll keep you updated on developing information regarding TikTok, and we'll see what happens as a result. But thank you for watching today, and I'll see you in the next video.